Hi Lori, this is your cutter. I'm just going to do a video, show you a couple tips. I read your email. It's not that we're being misleading in our videos or leaving something out or need to make better videos. I'm just offering you a couple tips. I mean, it's up to you whether you want to use them or not to help your cutter last longer. We've never really had a whole lot of issues with this in the past, so we've never felt the need to change anything. But anyway, the first one's pretty simple. And this is all the way up. And you'll even have to push up on it, on the thing like I mentioned. When you push it all the way up, it's usually fine. You just don't want to pull down on it until you release this. A lot of people, or not a lot, but some will have a tendency to be pulling on this, you know, in anticipation of pulling the thing down as they're pulling this. And when they do that, there's some rubbing on the metal that it doesn't need to be. If you after a cut, when you go up and you put it all the way in the top position and you push it all the way up, it's not gonna wear when you're doing it. That's why I don't have to mention it in the video. But some people have a tendency to pull down on it as they're doing this, and you just don't want to do that. You just want to release it first before you start pulling down on it, before you start putting any pressure. And that's all I was trying to say. You know, in the video, I took it for granted that, you know, it just didn't cross my mind when I made that video. There's a lot of tips I could be putting in that video, but the video would be 2 or 3 times longer. And I still wouldn't get all the tips in it because there's always something new that comes up somebody does, and I have to give them a suggestion not to do it that way. The other thing is this thing here, and this, I'm not talking about the floating position and exactly where you had it here. You know, you can put it anywhere you want here and do anything you want with it. It's how it arrived behind here like this, and whether you guys put it this way or not, it's not a big deal, you know. But I can tell there's been a lot of rub on the paint back here, so it's been used like this a lot. It just wasn't shipped like this one time. You just have to make sure you keep it on top of this thing. Okay, on this rail here, this needs to be on top of it, and it just glides on top of it. And that takes pressure off this. That's all I'm saying on that. It's not a big deal to replace that. It's not an expensive part. It's very easy to do. The other thing is when you tighten this down, it's just light snugging. You don't need to do much. This thing ain't gonna move. It's got grip on the bottom. You know, it doesn't need to be very tight for the paper. The paper's just buttoned up against it. It doesn't need to be overly tight. You just lightly snug it, you know, and it won't strip out on you. It could just strip out because, you know, you do a couple extra cranks on it, thing it needs to be tighter in it. And I'm not even talking about a lot. You know, you start doing a little bit, it starts tightening down the exact same threads all the time, hundreds and hundreds of different times. You know, any threads are going to start to get worn. Any threads from a nut and a bolt. So it doesn't need to be tight much. It just needs to be lightly snugged. And, you know, you'll feel it, and it's just fine. If you need a little more, you snug it a little more. But typically, you know, all you're doing is putting paper up against it. It's not a big deal. That's about it. You know, you do need a new blade. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. I could send the blade with you, and you guys can change it. I could change it for you. Whatever you want to do.